Hi, people. This is DJ.
This is Ish.
And this is
Season
season 3
3
of
Pero
Let Me Tell You. When you have as much content as Gloria de Estefan, the YouTube rabbit holes are like
That's true.
5 hours.
That's true. It's equivalent of like a Madonna rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, which is two things that you don't normally think to compare, but...
Rabbit holes and Madonna.
Well, I was going to say Madonna and Gloria Estefan.
Yeah. But yeah, the Gloria Estefan rabbit hole was great. It was awesome. And then what I love, it's like her early videos, like Dr. Beat and
With Gloria Estefan and her 40 pounds of hair.
okay, if you want to talk about, you know how we always say Kylie Minogue and her evolution in videos.
There's an evolution with Gloria.
Yeah,
For sure.
because it's so funny because by the late 90s, like when she came out with the Let It Loose album,
Yeah.
you could tell she already had enough money to have like a stylist.
See, yeah, she
Like
was...
she was like international, like
Right. She could afford...
Yeah, so she looked like really good. And then in the early videos, it's like, oh, you could tell it was local.
Yes, let's go with that. But, well, before we go any further, welcome to episode 122.
We're going down Gloria Estefan's video
rabbit
trajectory.
hole. Actually, did you? I just found this out. I think it was yesterday. She's gonna have a talk show of sorts on Facebook Watch. It's gonna be called. It's gonna be Facebook Watch.
La Ventanita Live instead of
it's
red.
it's Red Table Talk. The
Oh.
Estefans.
Okay, but wait, is Red
Apparently,
Table
Red Table Talk is becoming
is now a franchise?
It's a franchise now.
Okay, well, we need a Red Table. I mean,
It doesn't have to be red. You know, I prefer cooler colors. like a teal.
okay.
For Miami.
for
So
Miami.
yeah, it's gonna be her.
I could see her doing.
She's good at that.
I'm
She's
surprised
good as a
Gloria
host.
Estefan has not had a talk show
I think that they've tried to sell one. It just hasn't come to fruition.
at
But
the right time.
Yeah, it's gonna be her, Emily, her daughter, and Lily.
Estefan,
Yeah.
is it going to be them bilingual?
I would assume that it's probably not going to be like overtly bilingual, but I feel like kind of like our show, it'll just try to be naturally, fluid in that language fluid. Is that a thing?
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know when it's coming out exactly, but I think it's coming out this year. And it's so far it's 8 episodes that they've.
But it's going to be on Facebook?
Yeah, just like Jada Pinkett, the Red Table Talk.
Bueno, we know how that's gone. Have you seen any of the episodes?
I've not.
I have.
And?
So I have two opinions on it.
Okay.
I think it's kind of like I compare it to like the first few seasons of The Real World. Things were really real. Because there wasn't a precedent.
Right. You're blazing new ground, yeah.
Real World on MTV, like New York, LA, San Francisco even. There wasn't a precedent, especially at that time. Reality TV stars weren't really stars.
Thing, yeah.
So it was very authentic. I think that the Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett, the first several episodes, I thought were very authentic. But now I think it's kind of like, they know that they're really honest about it. So to me, it doesn't feel like the later episodes as authentic. One of the episodes I enjoyed the most, if not the one I liked the best, was when she had a conversation with Will Smith's ex-wife.
Yes. I didn't see it, but I remember.
But it was very real because it felt like two real women talking about something real that had shit in the past but have moved on, for the sake of peace and civility in the family, and they're on the other side of it. So I thought the conversation was really good. But now, again, because there have been so many stories and so many things said on that show, whether it's from them or from guest stars. Now I think it's like it's almost expected, if you will.
Like you're not going to go on there and just have a chat. You have to have like a bombshell.
Exactly. Like it's like, oh, what am I gonna
What's the reveal?
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I could totally see Gloria Estefan having a.
But see, when Rosie O'Donnell had her show, she guest hosted a couple of episodes and she did really good.
Yeah, and
the thing is with Gloria is that she's likable.
She's very likable.
very personable. She's very, down to earth, and she doesn't take herself seriously.
Right. Because like I think that's one of the reasons, and I've said it here before, why I think like Kelly Clarkson. I'm having such a hard time logging on my laptop, by the way. Like this is why I'm not like 100%. I have put in the wrong password like 10 times. Like coño, like Jesus Christ, Windows. It's me. I can assure you it's me.
They don't know that. Windows does not know.
No, because to our viewers, I usually like to record with a laptop, you know, to scroll through stuff and see if there's anything that comes up in like the news sites that we're going to talk about. But my laptop, I kept putting my password and it was...
Your laptop was not having it. And maybe it's because your laptop is red and it did not like how we were talking about the red table talk.
Maybe it was like F you.
It was like, my mother was at red table at one point. All right, sir?
So anyway, bueno. We can't talk about this week in review without talking about...
WAP.
Of course.
We're living in a post-WAP world.
I mean, look, I love the video. I love Cardi B. I've always liked Cardi. I give me credit. I liked Cardi B.
You have been long time.
I mean, before.
Yes.
I don't want to say that before because I didn't follow her. You know, when she was on the
VH1, not Real Housewives, Love and Hip Hop.
Love and Hip Hop. Actually, I didn't follow her there. But the moment she came out with Bodak Yellow, like the moment I was like,
all about it.
I was all about it, yeah.
Yeah,
And then she exploded. I love it. How do I explain this? The thing with Cardi B is that she's very explicit and sexual, but she's so freaking funny.
It's a caricature.
And she doesn't take herself seriously, and she's the first one to
She's the other extreme of Gloria Estefan.
but she's the first one to like rag on herself, like, oh,
right.
Fake titties, fake butts, that.
She's in on the joke.
It's like awesome. It's like awesome.
Again, she's a caricature, and she knows that she is.
Yeah.
You know,
and she's taking it to the bank.
Hell yeah.
And I like that she hasn't changed. Like, she is who she is.
No. Hello. The other day she posted a picture of herself, basically because she went to the supermarket because she had to go get an oxtail. And I'm like, dale, hace rabo encendido. Rabo encendido. Dale.
I love it. There's this interview of hers on YouTube that it was probably... I don't know if she had already released Bodak Yellow or if she was still, like, on the whole Love and Hip Hop... part of her career, that it was in New York, and obviously it was in Washington Heights.
As it has to be, of course.
And she was with some DJs. ¿Cómo se llama the show? It's a very famous radio show in New York. But anyway, she was there with the DJs. And she's like, porque mi papá siempre me dice que ahorre mi dinero para que me compre un apartamento de Santo Domingo. And I'm like, that's so like what a Dominican father would say.
Like we hear it. We can hear her father speaking.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I love it. Like, I love it that she's all like ratchet and, and she doesn't care. And I absolutely love it. I love her. I love her.
I had to come around.
You came around. You didn't care too much for her at first.
I didn't dislike her, but I didn't get it. And thanks to Instagram, I now get it.
Because the thing with her is that if you don't know her and you just look at her from the outside, you're like, ay, que vulgar, like, la Cardi B, que vulgar. But then when you really see how she is, you're like, oh.
It's a show.
It's a show, yeah. It's the Cardi B show.
It is. Oh, let's have that be a talk show. Can you imagine that as a talk show?
That's one reality TV show that I would watch.
Can you imagine?
I would be up all up on that reality TV show.
But no, I mean, I kind of hijacked it because we are living in a post-WAP world, post-WAP. But I don't think that's what you were going to say we have to talk about this
Absolutely,
week.
I was. The vice presidential nominee is second to the fact that Cardi B released
and Megan Thee Stallion
video.
have a WAP video. Yes,
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Carol Baskins is upset about it.
Oh, yes. Carol Baskins. Oh my God, I would love to see Cardi B's response to Carol.
I would love to be like, "Who Carol what? Baskin Robbins?" Because she'd be like totally not knowing what's going on. Yeah, she'd be like, "Oh, Carol."
You know what's bad, that with the way that coronavirus is going, we're probably gonna have a really toned down Halloween.
Ugh, I know,
if at all.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, the Tiger King content that we could have had this year.
No, damn it. One more reason to be pissed off at Corona.
I mean, it's like a kid in a candy store because there's so much you could do with like
us and our friends could have totally just been the whole cast and crew.
Yeah, and then
I call a manca.
One of us could have been Joe Exotic, and then the other two guys, well, these are my lovers. These are my husbands. But then, we had to like knock your teeth out.
Oh no! I'll just get some like a Sharpie. I'll just color them. I'm not gonna be that method. I'm not Marlon Brando over here. Okay.
But there's just so much Tiger King content that's gonna go to waste this year.
Aww.
Because I mean, Halloween is not gonna.
It's not gonna be the same.
It's not.
No. At least it's the one holiday that already brings masks with it.
That's true, but I mean, just here in Miami, all the public Halloween.
That's true.
All the parties are. I mean, they're gone.
I'm not even going to talk about it because I'm going to start talking about like all the lack of holiday parties during Christmas, and it's going to make me upset.
Yeah. No, but definitely. But Halloween
is party time.
It's party time, but I feel that all like the Halloween festivities citywide. Mm-hmm. Obviamente es un molote de gente, right?
Yeah. South Beach, Lincoln Road.
Right. Es un molote de gente. So, I mean, you can't.
There's just nothing you can do. Like, you just can't. Like, sorry. Thanks for playing.
I mean, and it's funny because like if COVID would have been like eradicated by then there would have been so much COVID content.
I know. I wanted to see what sexy COVID looked like. Right? Like, what would that be? It would be like just a big mask with a slit for your leg.
Who knows? But yeah, all this Tiger King content down by the wayside. So, okay, in other news,
other unimportant news you may have heard. I don't know.
So, Joe Biden finally picked his vice president nominee, which is Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Some people are very happy. Some people are not.
Did you think it was going to be her?
No.
Who did you think it was going to be?
I thought
it was going to be the sheriff. The lady.
Thought Stacey Abrams could have been. I thought ¿cómo se llama ella? I really like her, the mayor of Atlanta.
Oh yes, her. Yeah, but the one that I'm thinking about, I think is a Florida lady.
Keisha Lance Bottoms. I thought it would be one of those. Mm-hmm. Kamala Harris surprised me for a couple of reasons.
You weren't expecting Maya Rudolph to show up?
No, it surprised me because of the time. The whole protests and, from the Black Lives Matter movement to the George Floyd protests. In a couple of months have completely changed the narrative completely in most of the things that we talk about and how we approach them.
Right.
So, right now...
See, that's why to me she made the most sense.
Who?
Kamala.
Why?
Well, because she's a mixed race woman, but
but the thing is that right now we are socially in a place where there's this very big movement to defund the police, and there's there's not a pro-police sentiment right now, and we can have an argument till the cow comes home,
it's out there
of how accurate it is, or how good it is, or how bad it is. But it's out there. There's not a pro-police sentiment around the country, so I probably would have not thought that at this moment, because in politics the game could change from one week to the other, that at this moment he would have picked someone who was the top cop in California, because she was the state attorney of California, and Kamala Harris has a very, very high incarceration rate. So,
but that's why she makes sense to me.
But why? I don't think so.
Okay. The people who are going to vote for Trump are going to vote for Trump. I don't care. Like Jesus Christ could have been Biden's running mate, and they would have been like, well, I'm Jewish now. It wouldn't have mattered. But because she is both a woman, she's a woman of color, and not necessarily anti-police, it allows you to have different conversations across several types of groups to potentially lure different undecided voters. That you may not have had the opportunity to reach in the same way.
No, I wouldn't have thought about it that way. I actually, because he he has already gone on record saying that he does not believe in defunding the police.
Right, but it's one thing for a white man to say it.
Right, but that's why I thought that picking a woman, especially a woman of color, who is on the opposite end of that, would have made more sense. I still think that electorally, she's great.
Right, she makes sense.
She makes sense in terms of an electoral position.
She's very moderate too.
She is moderate, but the problem is that right now, what is moderate?
Okay, I'm using moderate in the old sense of moderate.
No, but
but you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Because to people who are on the right, anything on the left is left.
Is left, and vice versa.
And to people on the extreme left, anything that's not on the extreme left is not only right, but is moderate with like, oh, you're a moderate.
Like you're useless, yeah.
Right? So it's a very tricky time. I would say that, historically, a vice presidential nominee doesn't necessarily do much for...
It's more of a publicity thing.
It is, and it doesn't do much because, for example, in 2008, when John McCain picked Sarah Palin... Right. Originally, when he first picked Sarah Palin, there was a lot of fanfare with Sarah Palin and like, oh my God, look at her. The first woman, a bulldog with lipstick, and all that. Obviously, with her, the crack started to show soon after he...
Yeah, she's a different personality, yeah.
And, Kamala Harris, and I'm not necessarily, I don't want to insult esta mujer, Sarah Palin, but Kamala Harris
is an
attorney. She was a state attorney. Then she was, the attorney general. She's been in the Senate. She's been to congressional hearings, so on and so forth. So ella alguien que está preparada. Right. Whether you like her or not, whether you agree or disagree with her, ella alguien que está preparada to be in a higher elected office. Right. Whereas Sarah Palin was not. She was governor of Alaska. And I don't like to put states in hierarchies,
right.
But
Alaska versus California is just population-wise.
It's a completely different animal, right? California has what, the third or fourth highest GDP in the world if it was a country,
right? Yeah.
So it's
not comparable.
It's not comparable. So I think that in this particular case, I'm glad that he did pick, especially a black woman, because let's be honest.
I think that was always going to happen.
Well, yes and no.
Based on the front runners who people assume.
Well, yes and no. Well, now recently, yes. Yes. But remember that when the first round of the primaries happened, Joe Biden was almost out with, and it wasn't until the Carolinas, specifically South Carolina, that saved his ass. And
literally,
you have to give credit where credit is due. It was the black community, specifically black women, that saved his ass.
Yeah.
So, is this kind of a thank you? Is it kind of I see you? We could make arguments again till the cows come home that it was, a play.
It's a smart move.
A strategy.
Yeah, strategic. There we go. Strategic move.
You can make all those arguments. But the woman that he picked is, I think
qualified.
She's more than qualified. And I've said this before about her being a moderate. I've said this before many times here. I've always considered myself a liberal. I've always been a Democrat. Since I was a child, I always around a sea of Republicans and conservatives. Right. I'm I don't see things this way. I've always been very politically, very politically aware. But I think that being a moderate, especially in today's political climate that everything is so polarized, being a moderate, fortunately or unfortunately, is how you can try to get things done. Because if you are
that's life. You can't always just dig your heels in the sand.
But you can make an argument that there's things that if you look at history, whether it was the Civil Rights Act, the women's suffrage movement, and the list goes on, that you have to be a radical thinking and outside the box to get things like that done. And there's a certain truth to that you have to be outside of the establishment and really far left to get, very progressive to get things done. there's a truth to that, and I do believe that. But I just think that with the gridlock that we have now, with the it's like
we gotta take a step.
all your ideals seem fine and dandy, but how are you gonna get this passed?
Right.
And I'd rather have something than nothing.
Right.
Is it worth continuing to fight for? Of course, it is. But there is a moment that you have to be like, okay,
I'm gonna pick my battles.
I'm gonna pick my battles. This may not be the ticket that I wanted.
Right.
This may not be the two people that I wanted. These people may be more moderate than I wanted. But do I want the alternative?
Right.
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 So that's, I don't know. That we'll see.
We'll see. Well, November's around the corner.
So something I really wanted to like touch base with in terms of her in specific. Mm-hmm. So I always, here on the show, I always make a lot of comments about my parents.
Yes. Just a couple.
And,
once or twice.
I always make comments about like all these like shows that my father watches on
Spanish
TV.
From Spain.
No, from Spain, but also, like America TV, Mega, all these like local shows produced by older Cuban men for older Cuban men or whatever.
You want to talk about FUBU?
So he was watching a show de Ocaraza. He loves Ocaraza.
Ocaraza.
See, and earlier this week, actually the day that Biden made his announcement, I was at my parents' house and he was watching the show, and where they were talking, Ocaraza brought panelists to talk about
to discuss
the ticket.
Right.
So they brought this guy who was a Republican. I forget his name. And he starts talking about Kamala Harris. He's like, sí, porque ella es una fiscal en California, pero mira, el problema de Kamala Harris es que ella es una mujer muy ambiciosa. And I told my dad, give me the control. Pause. I paused. I go, he just called her ambiciosa as a bad thing. And he's like, bueno, ¿y qué? And I'm like, do you think that they would have said the same thing if that was a man?
If it was a man.
And he's like, oh, I don't think that's what he meant. I'm like, that's exactly what he meant.
Yeah.
In the way that he said it. And my dad's like, I don't know. I think you're reading too much into it. I'm like, I'm not. He knows that the audience are older men, from a different country, a different culture.
Who are not dealing with a woman in charge.
Right. And that's exactly what he meant. But my father was like, whatever. My father just wanted to continue with the interview. So he did. And then after the commercial segment, they brought in the Democrat to talk about the ticket.
The other side.
Right. And before the Democrat said anything, he goes, I just want to say, yo quiero decir que la persona que estaba aquí antes, I forget his name, I take offense over the fact that you said that this Kamala Harris is ambitious. If she were a man,
that's her fault.
If she were a man, we would not be talking about her ambition. And my dad is the one who pauses the show, and he's like, "Wow, all of you Democrats think the same." And I go, "Hell yeah!" I'm like, this is the topic that I wanted to bring in. I'm like, it is incredible that in 2020,
it's a microaggression.
We are talking about a woman who's a vice presidential nominee. That a criticism of her
is that she's ambitious.
That she has ambition. That she's ambitious. I mean, can you imagine if they would say that about a man? No, about a man would be like, no, porque fulano eres bien ambicioso.
Exactly. It's the tone.
Pero Kamala, no muy ambiciosa.
Ella bien ambiciosa.
It's like, what the hell? I don't know. Okay, let me ask you, in your advertising world, do you see that?
In what regard?
Like in terms of like female directors,
Well, it's weird because I've said this, I more often than not have only had like female bosses. Mm-hmm. So it's very weird for me when I hear people, and I'm not saying that my experience is it, and that everybody else is wrong and I'm right. But when I hear people say like oh, this industry has no women and blah blah, I'm like, well, all my bosses have been women, and the fact that my bosses have been women means that obviously they're ambitious. But then there is a point, where after a certain title, shall we say, it's all men. Mm-hmm. And especially because I tended to work in multicultural. We're also talking about like I used to work with a lot of Black Latinas. Like it's not just women. It was let's add to the to the checklist. But I mean, I don't know that. Look, I guess women have always had that problem. Again, anytime a woman is ambitious, or anytime a woman has to be stern, oh, she's such a bitch. And in my defense, I've said the same thing about guys too. I've said you're such a fucking dick. So, sometimes, you know what? Sometimes you are a bitch and sometimes you are a dick. It's just it's life. But I just think it's hilarious that it's like, yes, women can also vote. Did you see that one? They can open up a checking account without their husband's permission.
That's incredible.
But it goes back to what you're saying. You got to speak to the audience. You got to speak to your audience, right? Like, they're not going to have the guy come out and be like, bueno, tú sabes que ella es una mujer bien preparada. Y yo no le veo nada de malo de que ella ha dicho, yo voy a poner mi carrera antes de mi familia. Because that's not going to fly with that target.
It's incredible to me that there's still people who see ambitious women as a liability.
Well, I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
It
doesn't surprise me just because, again, I it's 2020.
Because I think, there could be people who maybe the thought of a female president is a foreign thought to them, but don't necessarily are not going to oppose it.
Just because it's a woman.
Right.
Right.
Or criticize it just because it's a woman. So that's why I was like, I can't believe that in 2020 we're having a discussion over the word ambitious, pero whatever. But there's something else also that I wanted to bring up. So I wanted to come up because now, now it's election season.
Right.
Right? Have you heard of Daniel Perez?
No.
Okay, he's running. He's in the Florida House of Representatives.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and he's running now. He's really young. He's younger than we are. I think he's like in his early 30s.
Oh, wow.
He's probably like 32, 33. And he's running for a seat in the Florida House of Representatives.
Okay.
His opponent's entire smear campaign against him, and I've seen the commercials.
Okay.
Is the fact that, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, before he was married, him and his fiance went to Cuba.
Okay.
On vacation. I think they went to visit family, but they also made a vacation out of it.
Okay, pero bueno, so he
And
went
I
to
think that the
family.
pictures were on his social media or on her social media because the people who are running this campaign against him,
they do their homework.
They found the pictures.
Yeah, they do their homework.
Of them like in La Habana and in Varadero and all this stuff. I've seen the commercials.
Okay.
The entire commercial is like, Daniel Pérez fue a Cuba y se rió del dolor de los cubanos.
Okay. Is he Cuban?
Yeah.
Okay.
¿Cómo podemos elegir a alguien que nos represente, que fue a Cuba y le dio dinero al régimen castrista?
Wow.
The entire commercial, I was
so
like...
not about his policies, not
right,
about...
Exactly, because
Right.
I was like, oh, they're going to lead off with that.
Right.
And then get it
Build.
to be like, oh, y él también, hizo
¿Qué tú
esto,
puedes
hizo
esperar
esto,
de alguien que hace esto?
Y ta, and like
Right.
give real substantial... because he's already been elected, so this is
round 2.
Right.
Okay.
Right. He's already been there. So
Okay.
I thought they were going to go, against his record because
Right.
he is part of the House of Representatives. So being that he's an elected official,
Right.
if you're running against him, the thing to make sense is to go after his record.
Right.
Call me silly. I mean, I have not been anybody's campaign managers.
But that's what you should do.
But I even think that the guy who ran Joe Exotic's campaign
Knew that much,
right?
much, yeah.
No. This video is attacking the fact that he went to Cuba. So what do we think about this nonsense?
I really don't care. I don't care that he went to Cuba. I mean, again, number one, he has family there, so it's not even that you can say, bueno, he went just to go to Varadero. You know what I mean? Like, he went to go visit his family, and while he was there, he went to see where his family comes from. I mean, the argument could be made the flip. You know what I mean? Which is, I come from this country. I went back to get to know my culture, my people, my family, so on and so forth. We don't do the same of people who go to China. We don't do the same thing for it's not like, fulano de tal went to China on his honeymoon. He's such a Maoist. You just don't do that. And my whole thing with that is I fully understand. Again, it goes back to what we're saying, FUBU, right? Like, make sure that you're speaking to your audience. But my whole thing with it is, okay, what does that matter? I'm not voting for him for tour guide You know, he's not running for election of Globus. He's running, you know, for a government campaign.
Well, because I think that it has to do, which we've spoken a lot, you know, here on our show about. It has to do with the guilt of our people, you know, the Cuban guilt. It's like, we're going to trash this guy because he went to Cuba on vacation some years ago, and we're going to use that against him in his re-election campaign. And I saw that commercial, and I could not believe that was actual, and it was an actual full commercial, like a 30,
just about that,
just about him going to Cuba, and pictures of him and his fiance in Cuba. And they're like, look at him in Cuba, you know, he's a traitor and all that stuff. And it's like, again, the man has a record, a legislative record. You could have pointed that out, and we're gonna make him like the villain in this story because he went to Cuba. I mean, come on. But that's why, like, I've said it here before. We love our people, but politically, we are
we're the worst.
The worst.
The worst.
Speaking of, let's liven things up a little bit.
Yes. So this week, we have somebody who's not the worst. We actually have from Diary of a Future President and Orange is the New Black. We have Selenis Leyva. She was fantastic. Unfortunately, you were having technical issues, so I had to batten down the hatches on my own, but it was great. She was an absolute joy. We also spoke about her new book where she details her sister's gender transition journey, but how it was also a journey for them as the entire family. And especially with us as being Latinos, you know, there's still so many things kind of, you know, to touch on a little bit, like, you know, us Cubans or whatever. There's still things that are taboo, you know, and this is definitely one of the biggie taboo ones. And so it was really, really refreshing and interesting to hear what motivated her and her sister to you know, put this journey down on paper and put it out for others. So after a word from our sponsor, we will jump into our interview with Selenis Leyva.
Hey everyone, this is DJ. How is everybody doing? Well, I have some great news for you guys. I'm here to tell you about Manscaped because let's face it, con el calor que hay, the last thing we want is to be bushy below the belt, right? And as you guys know, we've been telling you of how much we love Manscaped and their products. Their Lawnmower 3.0 has been a godsend when you live in Miami, the birthplace, you know, of humidity, the center of humidity. And now they're helping us groom areas everyone can see too. The Shears 2.0 Nail Kit is the perfect add-on to their Perfect Package Hair Trimmer Kit. Manscaped Shears 2.0 Nail Kit has 4 stainless steel tools, slash-tipped tweezers, rounded point scissors, nail clippers, and a medium grit nail file. Come on, it's flip-flop seasons. Let those talents under control, guys, because you know how bad that could be. And you know that we're going to give you a promo code. So use our promo code PERO20 and it gets you 20% off and free shipping and handling. That's right, 20% off with code PERO20. Means you could get the Perfect Package 3.0 kit featuring the Lawnmower 3.0 and toss in the Shears 2.0 as well. Not enough savings? Está bien. For a limited time, if you subscribe for the Razor Replacement Plan, you can also get a free travel bag and their comfortable and chafe-reducing Manscaped boxer briefs, which, by the way, I use all the time and are awesome underwear. Bueno, a ver, 20% discount, free gifts, clean nails, and trimmed, you know what? Sounds like a hell of a bargain. So what are you waiting for, guys? Visit manscaped.com and use promo code PERO20 today.
Welcome back, listeners. So, as we mentioned, today our guest is the extremely talented actor and author, straight from Diary of a Future U.S. President, Orange is the New Black, and quite frankly, my favorite drinking game ever, which is, hey, there she is on Law & Order. Selenis Leyva, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my God, thank you. I love that game. There she is. And you would find me in every single Law and Order ever made.
I'm pretty sure that you have to hold some type of record because now that Law and Order is on every day of the week, I watch it every day of the week, and I see you every day. I feel like you're just like my vecina. you know?
And I'm like different people too. I'm like the prostitute one day and the police officer the next day and the lawyer the next. It's exciting. It's exciting to be me.
See, I feel like you're the same character, just, she's exploring life. Like, she's growing.
I agree. She's growing. It was so funny because my very first Law and Order ever, 20 years ago,
Wow.
20 years ago, was Special Victims. And recently I appeared on their 20th anniversary. And I appeared as the first time as a hooker, as a lady of the streets.
Yes.
And then 20 years later, I am a lawyer.
Well,
so my inner story was she did good.
Yes.
She went to law school and now she's here with a vengeance. So
she put those coins to work, girl. She
did, honey.
So again, thank you so much for joining us. I know we feel like we know you so well because you are in our living rooms. From Orange is the New Black, now, Diary of Future U.S. President. You said, 20 years ago, your first role on SVU, what has that journey been like for you? As a Latina, I mean, you're Dominican and Cuban, right?
Yes, Dominican and Cuban. My mother is Dominican. My father's Cuban. I was raised and born here in New York, in the Bronx.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm a Bronx girl. And, it's been a lot of struggle, a lot of no's, and a lot of, but not quite, this is going to be the one, and then it's not. And so when it finally did happen in the level that it did with Orange is the New Black, I have to tell you that I was in shock. Like, I still could not believe that I was, like, buses would pass by or billboards on 42nd Street, Times Square, and there I was, it was so surreal to me because it took such a long time to get to a place of that kind of recognition that I'd be like, well, why are they staring at me? Like, I'd be like on the train being like, oh, why is she looking at me? And it was like, oh, she's looking at me because I'm above me. There's also a poster of me above me. But te lo juro, like, it was like the most, like, that I have moments still where I'm like, but why are they looking? And it's, oh, I get it now. So I don't know. It took a long time. It was really painful at times because this is something that I've wanted to do since I had memory.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I thought, wow, am I going to be able to do it on the level of being able to make a living? Right. You know what I mean? Because anybody could be an artist, a starving artist, but
most are.
I was, so and so I don't know. It's been like this really surreal, beautiful moment.
And when you got that role, let's talk a little bit about Orange is the New Black. As Gloria Mendoza. I really truly think of that show as an ensemble. But I will ask, was it always intended that way? Because I feel like at least at first the hook was, it's the white girl in jail and wacky adventures around her. Was it always presented to you like this is a role that will be, for the long haul? Or was it more of an episode or two, and as you got steam? It grew.
Yeah, no, for me, believe me, it wasn't. Nothing was presented to me like it was anything other than a day player, 1 or 2 days of work. Okay. And at the time, I had given up acting. I didn't want to act anymore. Yep, 6 months before getting Orange, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too painful. I'm tired. I'm tired of being told no. There goes the cat. There's the cat crossing. And I just didn't think it was a big deal. I thought I was just going to show up. It was a way to make some money. The agent that I had at the time told me, I don't think you should do it. It's just, whatever. And I'm glad I didn't listen to her. I'm no longer with her.
There's a reason.
There's a reason. But I just took the role because I just thought it was going to be an easy, like, just a paycheck, and then I could go on trying to find other work. And then Gloria Mendoza just grew. And I think from everything that Jenji Cohen, who is the executive producer, the showrunner of Orange is the New Black, it was always intended to eventually be a story about women in prison. The hook was going to be obviously the Piper story, right? Which is the first season was centered primarily around her and then the other characters. But as we went on, then it was no longer about the book. It was more about these women, and Genji and the writers just went crazy with ideas that I think came from the individual actors. I think every actor gave them something to be like, oh my God, yes, now we could do this. And now, so most of us didn't think that we were going to be on a show for 7 seasons. I know I was told I was only going to do 1 or 2 episodes. So to be, 7 seasons, to be there the first day, I was there the first day of shooting, this is real. I was there the very first day to the very end. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's fascinating to me because, again, at first glance, like, it's a bunch of women in jail, right? Like, and especially when we start talking about representation, as a Latina, and, it was really a multicultural ensemble. I think most people may have at least written it off at first as like, oh, it's another, Latinas in jail. But the beauty of that show is how it grew, their backstories, and they became characters, not stereotypes.
Yes. I love that you say that, because that was always my response to people who criticized the show. Even people in our own community, even actors in Hollywood, Latino actors in Hollywood, who seem to, look down on this show. And I would say, well, first of all, it takes place in prison. So it's going to be about a lot of prisoners, including Latinas, right?
Yeah.
It's a prison show. If it was a country club show, right? And the Latinas were in the prison, like down the road, then I could understand why everybody's having a hard time, right? But here, for the first time, is a show that got to really showcase Latinas in every age, body type, from different cultures, Mexicana, Colombiana, Dominicana, Cubana. And that was, to me, a big deal and a cause for celebration. And instead, I found that some of us in our community chose to look down on it instead of celebrate it. So that's an unfortunate thing. That's something that, unfortunately, the Latino community does a lot of, is, poo-poo.
Yeah.
So I found that to be, kind of like, what a waste of time and energy, instead of really celebrating that for the very first time in the history of Hollywood, you have an array of true Latino representation. What we, as the Latinx community, really are, that was it. That was it in all of us, in every single actor on that show.
Oh, yeah, from you to Dasha to Diana.
Diane Guerrero, Jackie Cruz, Jessica Pimentel. There was a huge array of people.
Yeah, it wasn't just the Latin bombshell, quote unquote. It was like, no, these are your primas, these are your tias, these are your, people that growing up. Like that's genuinely how I felt watching you guys. And so after that wrapped, now I think, again, on the topic of representation, I love, love, love The Diary of a Future U.S. President.
No.
It is such a beautiful show in that it is about a Cuban American family, but they're not in the hood. They're not, struggling to get out. You're a lawyer. Again, you come back to your law background, right? Your law and order background seems to have done you well.
Law and order. The prostitute did well for herself.
She just had to get out of New York. She went to Miami, became a lawyer.
She went to Miami, she became a lawyer.
It worked. What I love is that it's ultimately, yes, this is a Latino family. How do I put this without sounding like a jerk, right? It's not about, oh, look how Latino we are. It's just who they are,
Yes.
And again, who wouldn't want to live in a world where Gina Rodriguez is president? I'm just saying.
Hello. Yeah. I mean, hello.
But that's just so beautiful that they're just, a family that happens to be Hispanic.
What I also love about Diary of a Future President is that it is a representation of a Latino family without you having it beaten in every single sentence. We're Latinos, like, no, like, none of us walk around like that.
No.
Nobody walks around like, like, yo soy Latina. Like, no, we just are. And so I think but you know what makes a difference is to have a showrunner who's Latina, to have people in the writers' room who are Latin, people who are, actors who are Latino, who can say, you guys, let's calm down on the Latino, like we had the right to say that and to just tell stories that are universal. And that's what I love about Diary of a Future President, that any little girl, it doesn't have to be a Latina little girl, it doesn't have to be a Cuban American girl, it could be any little girl can look at this show and be like, oh my God, I could be the president of the United States one day, I love that I'm representing a single mother, period. A single mother who's a lawyer and who is navigating the world of her life, her kid's life, and trying to get back into the dating world. Like, like anybody can relate to that. So that's what I love so much about Diary of a Future President. And you're right, not every show about Latinos has to be about Latinos,
Right.
It's like exhausting, but that usually happens when non-Latinos are in the room and are in charge.
And it sucks because that they do it with the best of intentions, right? Like they're trying to do that representation, but they don't get it. They don't know who we are because they haven't lived it. It's not their fault.
No. So that's why I love this show so much, and I was so excited because I was like, oh my God, I get to tell a story, so that someone who looks like me, a little boy, a little girl, someone who looks like me can look at me and say, wow, if she could do it, so can I. It's a possibility. Representation really does matter. And we say that a lot, but it does matter. It matters to be seen. It matters to be able to connect to the stories that are being told, not just with the story, but also visually. Yeah. So I'm excited that we got a second season.
When is that going to start filming? You guys don't know yet, or?
Well, we're hoping to do it very soon. We're waiting. Now everybody has to take super precautions, and I think we're just waiting for a couple of people to agree to the safety measures that are going to be put in place. But the goal is to start, God willing, this fall to start shooting. Yeah.
Claro. No, yeah, you got safety first, right? Like always. Safety first. Now, thank you almost for teeing up the segue there for me so perfectly with talking about representation. I did mention at the top that you are also an author, and your book, and I don't want to get the name wrong, so it's My Sister. What the subtitle?
My sister. How one sibling's transition changed us both. With my sister Marisol.
Marisol, yes. And, I feel like when we start talking about representation, I feel like that is an area, we're talking about, trans and trans allies and that whole experience. We're still, yes, there's more representation than there was before, but again, it's like if, you went from 0 to 2, that's more, right? Of course.
Yeah.
But within the Latino community, the Latinx community, it still feels very taboo in a way that, as a gay man, I can say maybe, being gay still has its taboos, but we're loosening up those reins a little.
Yes.
What prompted you to and your sister to write this book, to get that story out there?
I think what definitely prompted us to say that, to basically share our story, was, for me, using my platform, I've always been an advocate to the LGBTQ plus community, always. I believe in using my platform to speak on things that matter to me, whether it's LGBTQ rights, immigration, women reproduction rights, voting, you name it. But the Caitlyn Jenner story really did something to me, because I remember seeing the cover and feeling so excited for Caitlyn Jenner after all these years to finally live her truth and be celebrated in a beautiful way. I thought, wow, this is amazing. Right. And then I woke up the next day feeling yucky, and I was like, why am I feeling this feeling? And I had to really kind of go within, and it was because there was a danger in the way they were celebrating her and then leaving maybe no room for what if you don't have the money that Caitlyn Jenner has, the fame that Caitlyn Jenner has, the brand of the Kardashians that she has. What happens to people that fall outside of that realm?
Right. No resources.
No resources, and it made me think of my sister and her struggles and how hard it is for her to even get a job when people say, oh wait, she's trans, I don't know if we can, and not just her, it's so many people. You spoke as a gay man, you're acknowledging that you feel that you guys have come far, the community has come far, but the reality is that it took you years, decades to be where you are today, to be acknowledged, to be respected, and even so, you come across a lot of obstacles.
Yeah, it's still not sunshine and rainbows. No pun intended.
Right. It's still every day, right? It's having to fight to maintain the rights that you have fought to get, right? So for me, the Caitlyn Jenner story was like, wait a minute, what if this could be a dangerous, slippery slope? Because if you don't look like that, if you are not someone who could afford all the surgeries, should you decide you want that?
Correct.
What happens if you can't afford the hormones, the correct hormones? What happens if you are quote unquote not passable? Yeah. What happens to that? And so that's when I was like, I think it's time to tell us a different story. And also to showcase the Latino family and how you can overcome the obstacles that we create, the things that live in us, in our communities, these ideals that we are, conditioned to kind of like focus on. Let's showcase a transgender woman who's Afro-Latina, who was adopted by a Cuban man, a Dominican woman, and grew up in the Bronx and is living a life with love and acceptance from her family. Right. That story has never been told.
Wow.
Anyone who is part of the LGBTQ community, we always hear about the family turning their backs on them.
Sí.
Ay, que la familia no quiere saber. And so in us sharing our story, it's saying it wasn't easy. Right. We had to learn, but we are a family. And at the end of it all, I know that my sister Marisol is here with us today, living as a trans woman, because of the love and support that she got from not only me, her sibling, right? And her other sibling, but my parents.
And that's key, isn't it?
That's so
key.
Un papá cubano. You know what I mean? You know what that means.
Girl, I got one. I mean, I know. Yes.
And a Dominican mother who was like into the Catholic religion and things like that. And they were able to turn around and say, this is our daughter. And we are going to respect her and we're going to love her. So that means a lot, you know what I mean? And that was important for us to tell the story. Just like we spoke about how a diary of a future president is nice to see Latinos in a different light. Well, it's nice to see a family of someone in who's transgender actually say, no, we're going to support her. We're going to love her. We're going to be here. She has a family,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting because it's something you said right now, which is traditionally you always hear about like, oh, this person came out as, gay, lesbian, trans, etc. And tremenda fajazón, the family threw them out. They were living under a bridge and, and I feel like even just from an entertainment perspective, like, to use the shorthand of Hollywood, that for the longest time was the story, right? Because I had drama, it's more dramatic and whatever. But that's not always the case, and sometimes it's funny how, you try to present these positive stories that, ultimately positive stories like with your sister. And sometimes people kind of want to go, well, but that's not the case for everyone. Right. And it's like, well, of course it's not. But I'm trying to show you that it's not always, dire doom and gloom. Yeah. Like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because like you said,
and people can get educated. We can educate people. We can educate those. There's always room. Like my parents, the easy way out was to be like, no, aquí en mi casa no, and it was like, no, it's more interesting to me to see people overcome obstacles,
Absolutely.
right? Work through their problems and try to understand. And today, I'm going to tell you one thing. My Cuban 79-year-old father and my Dominican, 70s, she's going to kill me.
Don't tell your mother's age.
No. my 30-something-year-old mother.
Okay.
Like, they were able to educate themselves to a place where they will not slip up. They're not going to they know their pronouns.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not going to dead name anyone. They're going to be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
So if it could happen to my family, it could happen to your family.
Yeah.
And that was the point of this book. We want to save a life. We want to educate, save a family. We want to educate people. We want to say, yes, it's hard. And it's sometimes really hard to even understand, but it's possible. And so we share our story, but we also give resources at the end of organizations and hotlines that you can call and get the support that you need so that you can then support your loved one.
Yeah. And ultimately, I think it just comes down to, like you said, education. If you don't know, ask the question.
Ask the question. Yeah.
And people will know if you're asking the question from a good place or a bad place, and it's, if you are genuinely just saying like, look, I don't want to offend anybody. How do I refer, in this context and what have you? I can't see anybody being upset about that.
No. I'd rather you ask the question. I'd rather you really, because you do know, like you said, we know when someone's coming from a place of malice and when someone's coming from a place of, please educate me. I want to get it right. And this book is for those that want to get it right, for those that want to find a way to be better humans. We're living during a time where, oh my God, every day, it's like just such a struggle. And I'm just inviting everyone to just take a moment to, even if you don't agree with it, just stop just for a second and read up on it. Yeah. You'd be surprised. Maybe after you finish reading the book, you're like, wow, I never saw it like that,
There you go.
And then you'll see it differently. I love having conversations with people that maybe politically we don't stand, we don't see eye to eye, but I love having dialogue, and I'm going to respect. Maybe at the end we'll walk away not really totally in agreement, but guess what? At least you were heard, and I was heard, and we always learn something. Believe it or not, we always learn.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I got to say, COVID has been crazy, but the one thing I will be very upset always with COVID for is the fact that could not meet you and your sister in person when you guys were supposed to be on tour with the book. You were coming down here to Coral Gables at the local bookstore, and I was like, damn you, COVID, as if I wasn't already upset, right?
Rona got in the way, damn it.
Como jode la corona. I mean,
como jode la Rona.
Well, Selenis, I thank you again so much for taking time out to chat with us here. Pero let me tell you, ultimately our goal when we started this podcast was, one of our models is listen, laugh, and learn, because we want people to walk away at least learning something or feeling like they're a little more expanded, but nobody wants to be preached to. So I definitely think, you've helped us achieve that in today's episode. And I mean, come on, you're entertaining. You are. You're, come on.
I'm an entertainer, honey.
Yeah, but you're an entertainer. You got the goods. That's what I'm saying. But
just look me up. Just watch all the reruns of Law and Order, honey.
Well, for those who don't know, it's on every day of the week now. It literally is. So,
I'm still getting checks. Yes, it is. It may be up to 20 cents at this point, but I'm still getting the check.
Cuesta más to print the check than...
Cuesta más to print the check. I always say, guys, really? SAG after. Maybe you should put this in a fund or something. This is ridiculous. I'm offended.
I love it. Right, but it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much. And you know what? Please, if you have anything else you're working on in the future, hope we can welcome you back again, because I've had ball chatting with you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And hopefully, when everything is kind of hopefully back to semi-normal or normal, the new norm, whatever that is, we'll get to speak in person. And thank you for supporting Mi Hermana, My Sister. It's out, available on Amazon for all your readers in Spanish and in English.
Así que no tienen excusa.
No tienen excusa, no me vengan con excusa. Sí. En español y inglés. Hasta en chino si lo quieren.
That's the next one. That's the next one.
That's the next one. And of course, Diary of a Future President, streaming now on Disney Plus, and second season in the horizon. So I'm really excited. There's beautiful things happening. Stay healthy, everyone, and please wear your mask.
Yes, please. Great, thank you.
Gracias, amor.
A ti.
And we're back.
Yeah, my favorite part, I mean, you know, she's a very storied career. I mean, she's done a lot of acting, but my favorite part was just talking to her about all her Law and Order appearances.
Yeah.
She has been on Law and Order. It has to be more than anybody else.
So we have to share with our viewers what happened, our listeners what happened.
Oh my God.
Because we had set this interview up. It was pretty much in the middle of the workday, and it was set up. It was confirmed. I even called you and confirmed
yes, you're
it.
like, this is happening.
And it was usually we don't do interviews during our work hours. Yeah. But this one we had
flexible.
to. But this one we had to. So I even took a webcam to my office. I set it up. I uploaded the drivers.
You were ready to go.
I was ready to go. I
Tremendo setup.
I confirmed. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. But there was a little bit of a snafu with the calendar and the setup. So the call started a little bit later than it was supposed to. So we thought that, she had missed the appointment. Right? But in reality, she did call in.
Yeah, she was running late.
Right, she was running late, but we thought she had missed the appointment. So I had put my phone down. It was on silent.
And you started doing other things?
I started doing other things in my office, and she called.
And she called, and like a good maybe half an hour into it, he's like, I was like, oh yeah, where are you? He's like, oh, I'm just seeing this now. Should I jump in? And I was like, I mean, you could, but at this point,
but I even took my I had a webcam. I was like,
you were ready.
I know I have a webcam somewhere in this house, and I found it. I'm like, shit, but where's the CD? So like, I took it to work, and I was able to download the drivers online, which is almost impossible to do, but I did it. And then freaking like, now now my thing is set up. So.
Now you're set up. You're good.
So
to go.
I'm actually ready to get my last soda.
Dale.
And I'm really excited about.
Whose life are you refreshing?
Who's on Instagram.
Oh, well, that could be anybody.
I want to give our last soda to.
Okay.
And a shout out to a page that we follow and we love.
Yes.
And everybody should follow them. It's Hialeah Love 1925.
Ooh.
And the reason why I want to give it to them is I think we've talked about the content of this page. We actually don't know the people who run this page.
We don't know this person.
Because the other kind of South Florida-based Instagram.
Like you're only in dates and all
met
that.
them.
Yeah.
We kind of know who runs them.
Right.
We've met them before. And we have a face.
Miami,
but actually, I don't know who runs the Hialeah.
No, we don't.
But whoever runs it, I wanted to bring attention to because this person really knows their history and their research.
They are huge history buffs.
They do actual research, not documentary research. And it's
a tale for another day.
Yes. And what I love about them is that, many times we all do this. We laugh at Hialeah. We make fun of Hialeah. Hialeah is the butt of the jokes.
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha. Even Hialeah's in on it, right?
Yeah, again, Hialeah is always.
But this Instagram page, they post again. I don't know if it's a he or she.
Yes,
they post just these historical references and pictures about the rich history of Hialeah. And Hialeah has a very, very, very rich and interesting history that I think all of us will be a little surprised and just be like, wow, yo no sabía eso, or like, wow, por eso es que la calle se llama así, or la casa, like the war houses with the flat roofs.
Why they're like that.
Why do they look like that? And this person who runs this page, and again, I wish we knew who it was.
Yeah, and hey, if you listen to our show, if you're out there, I mean, reach out to us. We'd love to have you on.
I'm just amazed at the amount of knowledge they know, and I'm that I'm a history buff, and I'm a total,
but they got minutia,
right? And it's like where do they even go find this stuff? Because it's like very detailed and and
it's always presented very entertainingly. Like it's not dry,
but
either,
it's very well curated.
Yeah.
So and it's about Hialeah, and recommend everybody and invite everybody to check out the Instagram page, because you're really going to see posts that Hialeah Love 1925 on Instagram. You're really going to see posts that you're going to be like, coño, I didn't know that. And over buildings, streets, and landmarks that you've passed a million times, and you didn't know the historical content. So my soda goes out to them.
Well, there you go. Well, my soda goes out to a sitcom currently on ABC called United We Fall.
Oh my gosh, I saw it yesterday. I love it.
It is so cute. Now, it's a traditional sitcom. It's, a married couple with kids and their wacky family and, all that. But the beauty is that half of the couple is Latina. It's played by Cristina Vidal, who some of you, if you grew up at a certain time, probably know her best from Taina on Nickelodeon. And her brother is played by Guillermo Diaz, who was on Scandal.
I don't know him from Scandal.
Weeds,
I know him from
Britney Spears video, which is, frankly, it's the most important thing.
And I know that he loves seashells.
Yeah, it's the most important thing as far as I'm concerned.
Forget Scandal.
Forget all the rest of it. But it also stars Will Sasso and Jane Curtin.
I freaking love. Okay, I actually started watching that show.
Do you know that it's like the highest rated show?
Okay,
of the summer?
I started watching that show because I freaking love Will Sasso.
I love him,
and I love Allie.
Jane Curtin, yes.
And it's funny because Jane Curtin has done SNL and she did Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah.
But to me, she's Allie.
She's always Allie.
She's
just Allie from Kate and Allie.
That's actually, I was saying that just like Judith Light.
Judith Light
has done SVU. She's done Transparent.
She won a Tony.
She won a Tony, but to me, she's Angela Bauer.
She's Angela Bauer. That's it. She will always be Angela Bauer. Just is what it is. But yeah, no. What I love is, and again, it's something that I
was about
touched
to ask
upon.
you what the ratings were.
It's been doing great. When it premiered, it was like the highest premiere rating. No sé qué cosa.
It feels very old school.
It's traditional.
Yeah, sitcom. What is it? 3-camera.
It's a 3-camera sitcom, multicam. Yeah. Actually, Gloria Calderon-Kellett is one of the producers on it. She actually directed. She was in one of the episodes. That's why it's good, of course. But I really enjoyed it. And what I love is that her side of the family is Latino in the sense of like the girls call her brother Tio and things like that.
Yes.
But it doesn't beat you over the head with the Latino-ness, which is something that I brought up with Selenis, which is the beauty of her show Diary of a U.S. President or a future president, because they're Cuban American on the Disney Plus show. They just are. It's not about like every time somebody shows up and it's just like, hola, my family. That's not the thing. We don't do that.
We acknowledge it, but it's not about it.
It's right. It's just who they are.
Right.
It's not what they are. So yeah, United We Fall on ABC. It's actually probably the biggest hit they've had this year.
It's funny because ever since I think I came across the post. I don't follow Will Sasso, but I saw a post that he had made a couple of months ago on the set.
Right.
And he's like, it's going to premiere sometime in August or September. Yeah. Because it was supposed to be a mid-season
and then
replacement.
They pushed it, yeah.
And I was like, when I saw the cast, I'm like, this should be funny. So I was interested in that show like blindly almost.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, again, anything Allie's in, because Jane Curtin is a riot.
Jane Curtin is great.
She's a riot. Yeah. So yeah, and Mr. Bird.
And and Guillermo Diaz, again, he's done a bunch of things, all of them fantastic. Britney Spears video, that's forever.
Y tremendo video.
Yeah, no, he has like the whole part.
He saved her from the robots.
He really did. He did. So you know what? We're indebted to you, Guillermo, for that alone.
Oh, that's awesome.
You think you go out there with your hashtag of Free Britney? You know what? He did. He did. He saved her.
Anyway, everybody, we hope everybody listened, laughed, and learned. And that was another episode. Grab your pastelito, your croqueta, and your cafecito. And that was episode number
122.
122, everybody. Are you sure it was 122?
Well, I hope so, because if not, that's what we've been saying this whole time. So we may be right, we may be wrong, we may be crazy. I don't know. I'm a Billy Joel song now all of a sudden. I'm pretty sure it is. Oh my gosh, now you're making me doubt things live on air. Yes, it's episode 122.
122, everybody. Oh, that's how sane we are. Everybody have a great weekend. Have a great Friday, Pero Friday. Hear you next time.
Cuídense. Bye. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismael Llano, produced by Ismael Llano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.